security. Vindman, who will be the first current White House official to testify, is expected to tell lawmakers that he did not think it was proper to demand that a foreign government investigate a U.S. citizen. Dave?
John, a few minutes ago, the president tweeted, "Why are people that I've never even heard of testifying about the call?" He said, read the transcript. Ukraine said no pressure. On Thursday, Democrats will vote to do what Republicans had demanded, make the inquiry more formal, setting up rules. But GOP Congressman Jim Jordan just told Fox,
even if they tried to change something to give a little bit of due process, we're all still going to vote against this because this is such a sham, and it's been such a sham from the beginning.
There's some hope in Sonoma County, California, battling a 116-square-mile wildfire that's burned down 57 homes.
The firefighters have managed to finally get some line around this stubborn blaze. They now have it 15% contained and hope to boost that containment number even more today because they say fire conditions have shifted in their favor.
Fox's Claudia Count in Santa Rosa. Another fire near L.A. has burned down 8 homes. Windier conditions could lead, though, to the power being cut to more than 1 million people to prevent more fires. If you have kids, you may not be surprised by this. A new survey shows the number of children watching videos online every day has more than doubled, in some cases replacing TV. Common Sense Media says the average 8 to 12-year-old spends nearly 5 hours a day with entertainment on their digital devices, more than 7 hours a day for teens. America's listening to Fox News.
Mostly cloudy skies. Rain showers have mostly moved out of the area. A bit of snow as well, too. 37 at 7:02. It's not too early for winter, apparently, for our friends in Dixon this morning, who received officially about 0.6 of an inch of snow. Chicago Teachers Union and the city are expected back at the bargaining table later this morning following a marathon session overnight into this early morning. Both sides went home after 16 hours of negotiations. CTU General Counsel Robert Block saying the union, they believe, has laid out some sort of path for a deal and is waiting to hear back from the city. An Indiana man accused of dropping his granddaughter from a cruise ship is facing negligent homicide charges. It happened in Puerto Rico in July, and charges against South Bend resident Salvatore Anello were announced yesterday. A 118-year prison sentence has been handed. A man from the suburbs found guilty of sexually assaulting a teenage girl in a home in 2015. Chandra Durkins of Joliet was found guilty on 17 counts of sexual assault, unlawful restraint, and aggravated domestic battery against that 16-year-old girl. Elmhurst College will remain closed today as officials investigate threatening graffiti messages found on the West Suburban campus. More graffiti was discovered yesterday inside of a residence hall. And Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan says a lawmaker accused of bribery in a federal complaint should resign or be removed. Madigan told reporters he will begin proceedings to oust fellow Chicago Democrat Luis Arroyo if he doesn't give up his seat he's held since 2006. David Ross officially introduced as the new manager of the Cubs yesterday. Last night, the Knicks rallied from 18 down to beat the Bulls in New York, 105-98. The news service of Credit Karma. Get your truly free credit scores and free credit monitoring from Credit Karma today. Download the Credit Karma app now. Credit Karma, here's to progress. 7:04 and a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher isn't exactly confident in the Democratic candidates.
President Trump tweeted, "You would think there is no way that any of the Democrat candidates that we witnessed last night could possibly become president of the United States." He's right. Did you watch the debate last night? Good Lord. What a clown show. What an absolute crap storm.
The Mike Gallagher Show. Weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
I'm Dr. Jeff Gooden, and I treat pain with Salonpas. That's because practicing good medicine is my responsibility as a doctor. For back or joint pain, I agree with CDC guidance that recommends using topical pain relievers first, like Salonpas Patch Large. Salonpas is powerful, FDA approved to relieve debilitating moderate pain, yet non-addictive and gentle on the body. Look for the green Salonpas box in the pain relief aisle. Salonpas. It's good medicine.
This is Attorney Stephen Leahy, host of the IRS Radio Hour, heard right here on AM 560 every Sunday evening at 5 o'clock. Let me tell you about Bill. Bill's business slowed down and he fell behind on his taxes. Instead of filing his tax return, he decided to wait until he could pay. Well, 1 year turned to 2, turned to 3. Then the IRS threatened to contact his customers, take his house, his bank account, and his passport. Well, Bill hired me. We filed all of his tax returns and an appeal to slow the IRS down. Then we worked out an installment agreement based on how much he could pay, not on how much he owed. Now Bill can rely on the IRS protection plan. We will file his future tax returns and keep the IRS off his back so Bill can focus on growing his business. If you have questions about the IRS, you can get a copy of my book, Deal with Your IRS Problem Today, to learn the secrets of solving your IRS problem and save your business, your marriage, and your reputation. Call 312-664-6649 or go to freeirsbook.com.
At Panera, get breakfast that's fast, not fast food. Try a new Chipotle chicken scrambled egg and avocado breakfast wrap and pair it with a premium freshly ground, freshly brewed coffee. All ready to go with the push of a button. Panera, food as it should be.
7:07. AM 560 traffic center time and Jim Talamonte.
Metro Milwaukee North Line trains are stopped in both directions near Morton Grove due to a collision involving a vehicle and an Amtrak train. Eden's 22 minutes Lake Cook to the junction. Kennedy 42 minutes O'Hare to downtown, a tad quicker the Express. Eisenhower 57 minutes 390 to downtown. It's 42 from Manhunt. Stevenson an hour and 4 minutes 355 to Lakeshore Drive, 46 minutes from the Tri-State. Ryan 32 minutes 95th to downtown. I-57 31 minutes 80 to the Birch Bishop Ford 54 minutes. Northbound Tri-State. It's heavy from 115th and Ridgeland to 31st after the Reagan Tollway to Lawrence. Reagan Tollway delays Eola to 59 and 83 to Roosevelt. I'm Jim Talamonte. On AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast from the 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning Weather Center and our meteorologist, Steve Williams.
Could pick up a shower or two early this morning. Otherwise, a chilly day. Clouds will give way to some sun. The high today, 44. Clouds and rain tonight with the low 34. And then chilly with occasional rain tomorrow and the high at 42. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
37 officially at O'Hare. Next news at 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Tasty Catering, a Chicago holiday party tradition. For delicious holiday catering, visit tastycatering.com.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. We have a copy now of the opening statement that will be provided by Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman before the House Intel Committee, as well as House Committee on Foreign Affairs, House Committee on Oversight and Reform today. He was on the call, listening in on the call between Trump and Zelensky. Yeah. He was one of the point men for Ukraine, and what the statement suggests is that he was uncomfortable with President Trump invoking Biden's name specifically. He was concerned that that would jeopardize, being seen as enlisting Ukraine to help with a political rival. That's how it would be interpreted by Democrats, and that would risk bipartisan support for aid to Ukraine. And that was that was a concern of Vindman's. And that's all fine. It's all well and good. That is not a question of removal from office. No. That's a question of strategy and tactics. I disagree tactically with bringing up Biden because it jeopardizes what we say we want to do, which is get military aid to Ukraine for all sorts of geopolitical reasons. That's not consistent with the D.C. press corps narrative of President Trump implored Zelensky to dig up dirt on Joe Biden, which continues to be repeated, including in center-right outlets like by Quinn Hillier at the Washington Examiner. who argues that House Republicans should be held in contempt by the electorate, not legally, if they do not support authorizing the House impeachment inquiry on Thursday in the interest of fair play and transparency. For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined again by our friend Andy McCarthy, former federal prosecutor, chief assistant U.S. attorney in Manhattan, contributing editor at National Review, and author of the book. Have you picked it up yet? If you haven't, why not? Don't you want to understand what's happening and what will happen over the next year? So do so. Ball of Collusion, the plot to rig an election and destroy a presidency is the book. Andy, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning.
Good morning. And by the way, I understand from our producer that you had some thoughts on Mitch Trubisky.
Yes.
We'd
like to break that down first, please.
That's a little bit beyond your kin, but we'll listen.
They're Bruce Wolf's thoughts. I saw that Bruce had tweeted that he's like the worst quarterback ever drafted by the Bears, and we're the team that drafted Cade McNown.
Yes.
So I got a little.
Yes.
Yeah. Look, I'm a Jet fan, so we can't look down our nose at anybody.
Well, I'll tell you, right now, we're longing for a Sam Darnold. That's how bad it is. But when you draft Trubisky ahead of Deshaun Watson and Pat Mahomes, it really puts an extra sting in it. You know what I mean?
We drafted Kenny O'Brien ahead of Dan Marino, so you're still running behind.
Still remember that, don't you?
All right, now let's get back.
Just a little.
Yes.
Just a little.
All right. So why don't we start with the piece that you wrote earlier in the week, because this is what I've been saying from the outset, and I'm so glad that you are saying the same thing, because that knows I'm thinking about this properly. Republicans making, speaking of tactics, a tactical error by having this debate about whether or not the call constituted a quid pro quo. Why is that a mistake?
Yeah, it's really dumb. All foreign exchange and most negotiations, whether they're between powers or private parties, involve quid pro quo. We think when we hear that term, it has a kind of a sinister connotation, but it really just means this or that. The only reason we think of it as sinister is because the only time we ever hear the Latin phrase anymore, it tends to be in connection with public corruption cases and bribery cases. But all foreign negotiations involve quid pro quo, and foreign policy is very different from domestic law enforcement. In domestic relations, where we're all under the same rule of law in the same political community, if I extort you to do something, that's a felony. In foreign relations, it's what countries do. So, for example, we are now trying to squeeze Iran, just to get away from Ukraine for a second, in order to get them to come to the negotiation table and cut a better deal, right? Are we extorting them? I sure hope so. That's not a crime. It's what happens in international relations. So to get lured into to discussing this in terms of was there a quid pro quo and did it involve extortion? In other words, trying to use what assets you had available and what pressure points you had available to squeeze another country into doing things. It seems to me we want to be able to do that. The question always is, are the things you're trying to squeeze them into doing in the interests of the United States, or are they in the interests of, the president personally and his personal political fortunes? And it's not always easy to distinguish those two things, because they do politically tend to meld.
Yeah. Well, impeachment, it could be profoundly powerful and really can divide this country. And you don't have to commit a crime to be impeached, and that's the sad thing. And they're voting Thursday to formalize the impeachment inquiry into President Trump.
Yeah, and I really think they have this backwards. It seems to me that, and this is the biggest problem with this whole thing, Amy, every other impeachment we've had, and I don't pretend that we've had 1 million impeachments, and this is a big database, but I think you can reasonably say that all other experience with impeachment we have an American tradition where the president is deemed to be fit if the sovereign elects him. We don't have, as I said, we don't have a platonic ideal of fitness. There's very minimal qualifications in the Constitution to run for president. And if the sovereign, meaning the people, elect you, then you're fit, right? And from there, we deem somebody to be unfit to the point that they need to be removed from office if they commit high crimes and misdemeanors, which is misconduct that's so egregious that there's a national consensus that cuts across partisan lines that the president needs to be removed from office. Because if you don't have that kind of misconduct, you're never going to get to 2/3 in the Senate, which is what you need to remove somebody. You're going to have something that the public is so sickened over that they think the guy needs to be removed, and that induces the Senate to do that. So that's the kind of misconduct we're dealing with. And what they did here, this is